please take it away.
Men. So this is the latest film from Alex Garland, as we said before, did Annihilation and Ex Machina. It stars Jessie Buckley as Harper, who is a woman who goes out to the English countryside for a couple of weeks vacation, get away from the city. We know from the trailer, it appears her significant other has died by suicide, and so she's kind of out in the country collecting her thoughts, trying to just get away from it all, go over what happened. But things get strange right away. As soon as she arrives, she meets Joffrey, played by Rory Kinnear, who's a very strange, kind of socially awkward host. He hosts the Airbnb or bed and breakfast rather, and it's a nice big estate. It's out in the country. It's very homely. There's a small village and pub nearby. Lots of nature. Things get, like I said, things get strange right away. She starts wandering, going on hikes, and it seems like someone is following her. Some strange person out in the distance. The kind of the shadowy figure that's kind of coming closer and closer to where she lives. It's a little bit of a thriller, a little bit of psychological horror. A lot going on in this movie. Zach, what'd you think?
So Alex Garland, I don't think is a director I typically might have come across had it not been for like off script. He's a bold cinema kind of director, I think. And it's interesting to go see his third movie, not really knowing what to expect, right? He's a little like an Ari Aster or a director of The Green Knight. I can't recall his name. David, some or another. He's unique. He's not tour, right? He's kind of doing his own thing. And so he fits right in kind of the A24 mold of doing like a horror movie that's going to be surreal and maybe a little abstract. Men presents itself as just that in the trailer. It's going to get a little weird. And it doesn't disappoint. I don't think. I'm still kind of working over how I feel about this movie. I think I like it. I think I like it. But I've read some dissenting opinions, and I'm interested to talk about it without being too spoilery, I think. So, where do you want to jump in on this, Andy?
Geez, there's a lot going on. It's very intense. I wasn't real sure what to think from the trailer. It's kind of mysterious, doesn't reveal much. We know that again. Harper is dealing with the passing, the very violent passing of her husband, and that's a lot what the film is about. It's about her dealing with that trauma, and I think as much as it is not her fault, she still feels like guilty and responsible for it, even though like her husband is revealed to be very kind of disturbed and also very toxic. He's blaming her. I mean, he threatens her. He's like, I will kill myself if we get divorced, kind of thing. It's a very unhealthy relationship that she's in, but I think she still kind of feels responsible. There's a lot of religious imagery in this film, but it's kind of subversive. It like there's allusions to Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden, Christ on the cross. But it doesn't mean what it usually does. Generally, when there's like allusions to crucifixion, it's about martyrdom or self-sacrifice, and that's not really the case in this. It's kind of turns it on the head what these things mean. So that's a really interesting part of this film.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Another bit of imagery in this movie that I didn't put together until I was reading another review earlier today. The Green Knight, which is directed by David Lowery, that director I was talking about earlier, also appears in this movie. There's kind of a facade of him in a church, which is kind of funny. But I think that's ties to English church, whatever. The church in this movie has anyway. Yeah, looking at Men, I wasn't sure how exactly Alex Garland was going to go about grouping, men into kind of one overarching theme for a film. I wasn't sure how exactly that was going to happen, especially since in this film, Rory Kinnear plays the majority of the men in the film. He dons makeup and outfits, a little CGI at times, to have him play multiple men in this village. Everybody that Jessie Buckley's character is interacting with is played by Rory Kinnear, save for just a couple of other people. Very small cast, like 6 or 7 people. And I think that It just kind of goes to show how silly that was of me to think that I didn't understand how could you make all of these men seem the same when they're all played by the same actor. It's kind of right there in its face. Men, it uses manhood and masculinity as kind of the oppressive horror for our young female, similar to kind of like Jordan Peele using a little bit of racism and Get Out and Us, like using like the horrors of prejudice and oppression like as something uniquely frightening for our audience is clever, and Men follows in those same footsteps, but it's uniquely much more English. It's much more
Very
patient.
British.
Yes, and it's much more grounded, at least through its first couple of acts, and it does start to really move in Act 3.
Yeah, it's
and,
very
and yeah.
it's very much it starts off kind of like invasion standard kind of thriller. She's out in the woods, there's a strange person she sees in the distance kind of coming after her. They seem to be closer. Home invasion is the genre I was thinking of, and we get a little bit of that. So it starts off like kind of a standard movie that we've seen before, and kind of morphs into this psychological surrealist horror, very much in the vein of well, actually what we saw the last thing that we watched with Jessie Buckley, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Being John Malkovich, Eternal Sunshine, this
Charlie
New York.
Kaufman-esque.
Yeah, like these kind of
yeah.
things not taking place in reality, but that are very metaphorical, is about where it goes about halfway through.
Yes, and it's funny because like I've been reflecting on that because it starts to get surreal. Its later part it starts to get a little abstract, but really like from the trailer, it's pretty obvious that things are abstract, right? Like all these people are played by the same guy, and the main character doesn't seem to notice or care. It's surreal from the start, but like for some reason Men kind of draws you in, and I think the reason it does that is because of its suspense and its tension. Alex Garland is very good at drawing out suspense. Quentin Tarantino used to say suspense is like pulling a rubber band really tight on screen, right, till it's just about to pop, and then just holding it and just waiting for like that tension to snap like a twig. And Alex Garland does that really well in the first hour of this movie. Jessie Buckley is this wonderful young woman who's walking around, the English countryside, figuring herself out. And you're right, she finds this guy. He follows her back, and it's spooky, man. It's eerie. She's like running through the woods. The music's like real good. And then additionally, you get these wonderful scenes where she's reflecting on her time with her husband, and like it's beautifully shot, beautifully scripted, really tense scenes, like really good stuff. Every time it cuts back to one of those, you're really tuned in. Once that all has to kind of come to a head in its climax, it takes a turn for the weird. And I think that's where a lot of people have been getting lost on this movie. Because a lot of the bad reviews I've seen have said Alex Garland's gone too far. It's too weird. It's too much. It's too strange for me, and he lost the plot, and he's just beating the theme of the film over the audience's head in the third act. I don't know if that's true. What do you think?
It is pretty extreme. I would say this is probably his most extreme film. He deals with he deals with these themes of kind of the relationships between men and women. It's kind of a theme in all of his films, or his last three at least. And that's a similar theme here. And this is probably it's his most surreal, most intense, most extreme. It's definitely the pendulum swinging pretty far to one side. That's fine with me. Like, I'd like to see like this, the weirder the better. I can see how a lot of people that you might lose them. He might need to swing back a little bit more towards the center, but I always appreciate someone going for it, seeing something different, seeing something that's like, wow, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I think that additionally goes for the script. Like it most of the film focuses on Jessie Buckley's character. Harper is her name, right? Harper. Most of the film focuses on Harper's like feelings of guilt about her husband's untimely demise. Like, and most of that is like put on her, and that's what she carries. But later in the film, like as the film starts to coalesce around this idea of masculinity being like this genuinely oppressive force in a woman's life, it stops so much being about like her guilt and turns into just kind of this like meditative think piece on the oppression of man and masculinity on women and children and enfeebled, you know, like it shifts a little bit. And I think, yeah, like that step away from this like core kind of like oppressive guilt that Harper's feeling into something larger and a bigger theme makes like the audience kind of falls off they just fall off the wagon. It's just like, hold on, you lost me a little bit. And you combine that with some really outstanding visuals, a bit of body horror, a little bit of body horror in Act 3, and like it just people fall off and they say this is too weird, this is too much. It's weird because, yeah, this is the director of Annihilation, right? This is the guy who had a screaming bear pig thing.
Man, bear,
like,
pig,
and people that turned into trees, and like, yeah, like Annihilation was wild, but this is a step past that. Like he's really leaning in here.
Yeah, it's definitely like you said, it's his most extreme, and his other work is based on previous works. Like Annihilation is based on a novel, a set of novels. Ex Machina, I think, was based on a short story. So that's, I think, his first kind of original screenplay. And you're exactly right; it has these themes of, as cliche as it is to say, toxic masculinity, or these different kind of male archetypes that are problematic to everyone, you know, to the women involved in the story, to the children, to other men in the story. We know the main character, or kind of the first man we meet, Jeffrey, he's socially awkward, but he's also just kind of a timid thing. And there's a section where he's like, well, I'm going to go fight whatever this is out in the yard. Hope nothing bad happens to me. And it's like, my dad said I was not cut out for the military, but here I go. I'll get to prove it wrong. You know, that's like, it's a very like toxic mindset that is just hurting other men. So
yeah, just the sentence. My dad said I wasn't cut out for the military. It's like father expectations, military service, honor. Like it's, yeah, like it really,
yeah,
you could really start to pick it apart. And yeah, I've seen people say it's not that deep, and it acts like it's deeper than it is. And I don't think that's true.
It's pretty deep. I would say.
Yeah, I think Men respects its audience. I do. Like, I think Alex Garland thinks you're a pretty smart individual sitting in the cinema, and he wants to approach you with something interpretive. Like it's I don't know. I guess it feels so ungrounded by the time you get to the credits. You're just like, I don't know what lessons I'm supposed to take away from that exactly. At least that's what some people seem to feel. I feel like I understood the oppressiveness of the emotion he's trying to portray. It's a horror film, right? Like what is scary about masculinity? Well, there's a lot of things actually. Like and wrapping that into a kind of body horror, part slasher, part thriller package. It's kind of neat. Like I don't think it's a bad movie. I really don't.
Right. I mean, this, like I said, the movie is heavily metaphorical. He could have done this in a very grounded way if he had wanted to. Like, instead of having all these different characters played by the same actor, he could have had them all played by different ones and all still represent different facets or aspects of masculine culture. But you know, he chooses to go this much more extreme, surreal approach, and it's just kind of a different film for that. And I agree like it's challenging for the audience. I wanted to mention there's also a number of allusions to classical literature. There's references to the Odyssey and the Iliad, possibly Dante's Inferno, the Bible is as well. So that's another thing that he kind of wants you to get thinking of while you're watching the movie.
Yeah, Alex Garland is definitely a writer first and director second, and that I noticed that looking through the trivia for Ex Machina last week, but to get ready for the show, he things in the background to like quotes from characters. Like there's a ton of stuff going on in there, and it seems like this movie is in the same boat. There's not much out there now as far as trivia goes. I couldn't even find the exact budget for this, but I know it was small because there's not a lot of people in it. And for what it's worth, the cast is excellent. I don't know if we've actually said that yet. Rory Kinnear does a fantastic job of playing a number of different individuals, a few of which who look genuinely different from one another. Some of them they kind of like run together, but like a couple of them, his vicar character versus like Freddie, yeah, like very different. Jessie Buckley is a delight. She needs more work. I don't mean for her to get to the mainstream, but like, my God, she's gonna get caught up in the Charlie Kaufman weird, like,
she'll get thrown in a Marvel movie eventually.
Yeah, she's gonna be the Felicia Day of A24 films if she's not careful. Like, she's never gonna get out of it. So everybody's good in this movie. I don't know. Any other thoughts for recommendations? I don't. The music's good. I don't know. I don't really. I don't have any other large musings, I think. Other than I think whether or not we'd actually recommend you watch it. Annie, would you recommend Men?
I went to certain audiences. It's pretty intense. It has a lot of graphic violence in the third act. So I would be very careful who I recommended to this. Like, I appreciated the movie a lot. I'm not sure if I would see it again just because I think I got it the first time. So would recommend it to some audiences. Maybe save it for streaming, which it'll probably hit relatively soon. It's not going to be a big movie at all, but so recommendations with some hot caveats, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Like, I think I liked Men. I'm still kind of working through it. There's parts of it that I really enjoyed. But I don't know who to recommend it to. You got to be a certain kind of individual to want to see what's going on in Act 3 here. Like, it's pretty gruesome. And if you're watching at home, you might just be like, dude, no. Like, I'm getting on my phone. I can't stand this. Watching in the theater was a bit of a challenge. So you should know going in, it is some body horror in the third act. It's pretty gory. Yeah, just be ready for it. And I don't know. I can't say I would recommend this to like all the ladies if that's what anybody was looking for. I don't think Men is like the perfect feature to take your girlfriend to. Far from it, actually, unless she really likes bold cinema. But it's a good Alex Garland movie, I think. Like, I'm not going to reflect on this poorly. This is not going to be on the worst of the year list. Like, it's pretty good. So yeah, I guess I'd recommend it. God. To those of you who choose to pursue bold cinema, right? To the people who saw like Drive My Car and Moria, go see
Neon Demon.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah. Only God Forgives. Like, if you're into the kooky stuff, you're gonna like Men. But like, if you're just looking for kind of a mainstream horror, I don't know, man. It may not do it for you.